Righty. And Brad has built a workflow in Zapier, which greatly helps him in one specific aspect of his process. Brad, could you give a rundown of what that workflow does? And actually, let's have a look at it.
Sure. Let me just share the screen here real quick. Basically, with the workflow, this workflow is super simple. All it does is it basically takes when a new matter is created in Lawmatics, it see, are you able to see that?
Yep.
When a new matter is created in Lawmatics, all it does is basically make sure that the phone number that is associated with it, or that the client, the new matter, has a phone number. It formats the phone number into one specific format that I prefer. That it can be used in Clio, Lawmatics, Dialpad. It will then basically update that phone number to that format in Lawmatics. For a step later on, it takes the phone number and extracts the number in text format, string format. Then it'll make a call to Dialpad to pull all contacts that I have in Dialpad.
And these are all
And
pre-built, let's say, connectors, right? You haven't really done any, let's say, custom API connections or anything here, right?
so the Dialpad pull is just it's a webhook,
Okay.
if that's what you mean. So it's not it basically just pulls the whole entire list of all of the names and contact numbers.
Mhm.
Because the reason that it pulls that is just to see whether or not there's already a name associated with that. And if that number is already in there in the contact list with a name associated with it, then it just doesn't make it through that next filter.
Right.
But if it does, so if it's a number that's in there, and that's usually what the scenario is. But if that information's not in there, then it basically creates a new contact in Dialpad. So it's like super simple, right? Like you can't get any more simple as far as a process than this, but this thing has turned out to be gold. I don't know why with caller ID and all of that type of stuff, I get so many calls that don't have names associated with it. I'm not like a phone expert by any stretch of the imagination, so I have no idea why. But what this thing ends up doing is that as soon as a matter is created, be it that I was the one that created it or my answering service is the one that created it, then every single time that I would end up getting a call or I call that number, because I use Dialpad for my business, the client's name is already associated with that number and will be showing up. So I have not entered a contact really into Dialpad in months, because I have other systems that are also set up for non-client scenarios that feed numbers into names into Dialpad as well. So I've just automated the whole entire process of creating new contacts in my phone service, and then it can go across all platforms, including Clio or anything like that.
And so the process before was, if a new, let's say, client signups with your firm, you'd manually go to Dialpad, you would, input their information, you'd manually format the number inside of Lawmatics. If you wouldn't do that, then really the client experience is less smooth, right? If somebody calls you, you're like, hello there, like how can I help you? All right. And then like I'm your
Exactly.
existing client, right? I like, oh, okay. Obviously not the best experience. Now if somebody calls you, right? You immediately know, you greet them by name, and like just this one small change is actually such huge difference in terms of just customer experience, right? And then the how well communicated, well heard your clients feel, right?
Yep, that's exactly right. So they'll, there, there's only been a couple of times that a client has called over the last 6 months where they're calling me from a different number. It's usually jail, but it's a totally different number, right? And
Yeah.
so they consistently will be using obviously their cell phone, their primary contact to call me. So I will automatically know who it is, and this updates. It does that pull for the first query, pull query every 2 minutes, right? So inherently, the very first time that they're calling me, it doesn't matter when that is. I mean, after the initial contact has been made and the matter's been updated, the very first time that they're contacting me, or I'm looking to call them, the phone number's already in Dialpad. And so if they're calling me later in the day, not only do I know that they're who they are so I can better prepare for the phone call as it's coming in. But yeah, the way that I end up answering the phone, it gives them a much better experience than as though they're being treated just like another number.
No, absolutely. And all of this again built in Zapier, you don't really need coding experience for this, right? All of those are as well pre-built connectors that you just, click, authenticate, log into the account. Easy, easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? It's
Exactly.
what other automations have you built around your workflow that have been helpful?
So my business is set up right now where I'm a solo practitioner, right? That I don't have any paid staff. I have a 24/7 call answering service, and realistically, I also work part-time and as a municipal judge and as a law professor, right? So I don't have a staff, and I also don't have the desire to right now hire on people for what is work that is a full-time position, but it's kind of like a part-time position, right? So the automations, I have an integration with Smith AI. They're the answering service that they will fill out the Lawmatics form when a new call lead comes in, and they have a filtering process for the new leads that I've worked with them on. When the new lead comes in and it's met right that gatekeeping function of, okay, it's within the Denver metro area, maybe it's a criminal case where they need criminal defense help on it. The first step is that matter gets created, right? And so that's one way that items come in. Another way that items come in is through a web form that's on my website that's also a Lawmatics form. And so just take that one, for instance, because that's a very automated process. When
Obviously, as
somebody
well,
fills
in the
out the
form, you can have some of those qualifying questions, right? And if they don't meet that, you can just hook it up to an automation, which sends an email like, "Hey, sorry, we cannot help you," right? And
exactly
and
right.
I like potentially already like says, okay, maybe contact this other attorneys, or even if you want to go really crazy, there's no attorney share API that actually Bob Simon now released, which actually
Oh, I
allows
don't
you to
even know about that.
automatically refer people out. So like if they're not a fit, your system can automatically like match their system will automatically match it with the right attorney and like I've logged that as a referral and then obviously if they take on the case you get the feedback.
That's
Crazy.
brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah, but if they meet the qualifications, right, it's sending them text messages that are everyone knows they're coming from an automated system, kind of, but they are still personable, right? They're still specific to the person using their name and things like that. And it'll also reach out to them to provide them with a booking appointment,
Yeah.
right? That I switched over from Calendly to Lawmatics, just to have one single booking appointment system. Um,
Yeah.
and so that's been excellent. The automations then that are set up from Lawmatics are it'll send them an additional form for them to fill out some additional information, because you don't want 10 or 15 questions on a form on your web page. No one's going to fill it out and they'll never become a lead. So instead,
Mm.
after the booking appointment, it'll end up sending them the form. I think it's like 30 minutes before the actual booking appointment takes place. It'll email me the form so that I have it in my inbox. I obviously could put it in as a task into Lawmatics, but for me, it's been easier for it to appear via email. So I have a client consult with them. After the consult, or I guess I should say right before the consult, it'll also send me an additional form where it's kind of like all of the forms kind of like start building, you know, more and more information. And the one that I get right before the actual initial consult is all of the information that they've provided to date, right? Plus, is it going to be an hourly or flat fee? What is what is the retainer amount? What's the trigger amount to re-up the retainer? Things like that. And so I can fill that out while I'm having the conversation with them about their case if they're looking to go forward. And as soon as I hit submit on that, it will compile the appropriate fee agreement, send them the fee agreement for the digital signature. When they have the digital signature, then it'll automatically send them a payment link through. Now on that end, I'm using LM Pay, but it'll send them an automatic payment link. And then once they, I don't know, okay, thumbs up, man. So once they end up doing the payment link, then there's another automation then in Lawmatics where it will send them an additional form that they'll be able to fill out that really goes into more of the details of stuff that is going to be specific to their case.
Yeah.
Maybe it's what their driver's license information is. Maybe if it's a DUI case, there's a reason that a defense attorney representing somebody in Colorado on such a case may need the last four digits of their social security number. So it includes that, information like that. And it'll also send them a welcome email that basically describes all of the specific ways to contact me, because basically after they're hired on as a client, they have my direct cell number, and that's how they communicate with me. It also, provides them with the Clio text number that will end up automatically, placing the text into their file in Clio. It sends them an additional email that basically has one of those. It's a VCF. Is that what it is? Basically, it's a contact. So all of my contact information, so they
Mm.
could just click on a link, and automatically on their Android or their iPhone, it creates a new contact for my law firm with my law firm's
Right.
logo, with all of that information for them. And then lastly, it sends them a additional booking appointment for an hour long, either in person or Zoom meeting to be scheduled on my calendar so that we can have that initial client discussion.
All handled as well through Lawmatics, right?
Oh yeah, and it also then converts them over to Clio, so it takes all of the information and puts them into Clio. And yeah, the only thing that so all of that, right, and the only interaction that I had done was hit submit on the form right after talking to them to have them send the fee agreement. All the
Right.
rest of it's done automatically.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, previously you would have actually like paralegals, admin stuff, but actually doing all of this, right? And the thing is, it's not only costs more, it's actually slower, right? The
Yeah,
quality of the output was actually worse, right? As long as you can just build all the logic, obviously sometimes you may have more advanced types of agreements, right? And quite a lot of, let's say, different cases they can go through. But as long as you can just like sit down and understand, okay, which part, let's say, of this engagement agreement is the same across all of the different types, what parts are different, how can they just set up conditional logic codified essentially in a way that would appear in the right places. After you've done that, all of it is smooth, right? Um,
hmm
how long did it take you to set all of this up? I understand by yourself, really, right?
yeah. Well, thanks to you, right? I mean, like as I mentioned to you earlier, you have some of, if not the most beneficial and helpful information regarding Lawmatics and integrations into Clio that's out there. So that was extremely helpful. I will tell you that, I mean, Lawmatics for a solo practitioner who doesn't have any additional, uh, employees or anything like that, I think one could make a wild, legitimate argument that that's overkill. I mean, it's a beast of a system.
Yeah.
It really kind of is. So and I like technical stuff. I like automation stuff, and our house basically runs completely and totally off of Home Assistant. I love that type of stuff. And still, I mean, I was working on additional automations this past weekend. So I mean, it's going to be a long time, if ever, that I stop improving it. How I, but I will tell you also that it was within the first couple of weeks of having it set up or setting it up that I was already seeing it paying off easily for what it was worth per month.
Yeah. Especially if you are doing it yourself as an attorney, right? Because obviously,
Yep.
your time is what, $400, $500 an hour.
Yep.
That's pretty much the monthly subscription, right? And as long as it saves you
Yeah.
an hour of your time, right?
Yep. Exactly.
And as you said, I think it's an iterative process, really. You never stop, right? I've worked on some systems for 2, 3 years, even longer. And as long as your business is obviously changing, right? As long as you're growing, adding more things, right, to your offering, then it's a continuous process, right?
Yeah.
You get to a very good point, right? But after that, there are still more things to do that you can build out, right? As well as new technology comes out, right? That makes certain things possible. Like previously, voice AI intake wasn't necessarily super feasible, right? Right now it becomes very close to being feasible, right? And being
Yeah.
able to create it. What are you working on right now? What's the next automations?
Um, one of the things that I'm going to be working on heavily is going to be uh, tying up, closing the loop with Google ad spend and tracking, in Lawmatics, as far as conversions, um, because it's kind of halfway set up right now, and so I need to set that up. And then the other thing that I'm looking at um, is, both Clio and Lawmatics have their own portals, and the- Lawmatics is nice in that you can basically set up the portal without any type of manual work. And Clio's, at least from my look at it, I haven't figured out yet how to automate um, the opening of the client
Right,
portal.
right.
And I think it's a huge opportunity for Clio, because I don't know, I think it's kind of absurd that you'd have to send a message to actually open up the portal, rather than like on the Lawmatics end, you can just send, basically they could just get the portal and an email for the portal and go and sign up for it without having to initiate it inside the program manually.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I don't think that Lawmatics has is what I move clients over to Clio once they're hired, and I don't look back at Lawmatics for case management type stuff at all.
Yeah.
But if I wanted to just keep it on the portal for Lawmatics, it would be nice if you could end up triggering something based on what happens in the portal for Lawmatics. If a new file got uploaded to the portal, and that could be used as a trigger within Lawmatics automation to then say, okay, well, sync back up to Clio. That would be amazing, but I don't think that exists yet.
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, you do have as well, obviously, like some third parties that you could integrate, like HANA or Case Status, that would be able to automatically open up files and have somewhat, let's say, more automation linked to, let's say, for example, as a case goes through different stages in Clio Manage, right? Automatically send emails and SMS to clients to update them on progress, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm obviously being able to see like which stage it is in, right? Obviously like Clio Manage portal is somewhat, let's say, more basic. It's just, file sharing, bills, communication
Hmm.
primarily. It's not really a full featured like, hey, here's the stage of your case and here are the next steps that you need to do, right? Um,
Yeah,
so I think there's something to go for those to say about those platforms. And one important thing I would say that as well, a lot of people probably miss is that if you do want to have really good data in terms of your Lawmatics on return on investment on your marketing activities, quite important that if you're billing hourly, especially or contingency, to update once your file is closed in Clio Manage, to update the actual value, right, in Lawmatics, to make sure that your system actually knows how much you ended up charging that client, because maybe quite different from the estimated value that you had in the beginning, right?
for sure. I have not set that up. But yeah, that is absolutely important because, once, like I said, I don't look back for, I do want to, continue with or develop, drip campaigns and things like that on Lawmatics end, even after they convert. But I just don't look back and use Lawmatics for anything other than lead generation kind of like right now. So even when they're in Clio, I'm using Clio Pay, um, for re-upping retainers and things like that. So yeah, the value could be significantly different after the case is done if the retainer's been re-upped, and Lawmatics would never know it.
Absolutely, absolutely. What would you say? What would your advice be, for a solo attorney, maybe small office, on how to get started with all of this? As you said, it's a best of a system. How do you not get overwhelmed?
Well, yeah, I mean, that is the thing, right? I mean, it is, I was really, really, really lucky when I in the way that I started this firm. I knew that for about 6 months that I was going to be starting a firm, but I wasn't coming from a different firm. So I did not have any clients to start at all. So I used the first month to figure out, okay, exactly what systems am I going to use, and, you know, went through all of the different case management systems. I was doing, and all of the trainings that I could possibly go through for scenarios of like, okay, well, what is Lawmatics going to be like in comparison to Clio Grow? Um, and so the best advice that I could give on it is to calendar out a period of time, in that the return on investment for something that's like this for a solo practitioner really is not long at all, right? Because you're talking about a monthly fee that is significantly less than what your hourly rate is. So, I mean, the automations, I wish that there was a way of me doing a better job being able to, there's just not a way to track how much time I've saved on the automations that are there. And it's not
It's
just
always a bit
about
of a
time.
guesswork, right? You say like, oh, like I spend, maybe 5 minutes doing this. I have 100 cases. Okay, it's 500 minutes, right? But
Yeah, I mean, but that the automation for that intake of getting everything from, having them sign the fee agreement all the way to sending the welcome email, setting up the hour long sit down with me, like, to do that actually manually would easily be 20 minutes, 30 minutes of work easily, and it would be a lot more than that if you're trying to, manually send out payment links and things like that. So I know that on the front end, I'm saving, 20 to 30 minutes for every single client, but it's not just about that. It's also about what the client experience is like. And, because of the types of automation and communication methods that you can use in Lawmatics, the experience for the client is better than I could give them if it were just me doing everything manually and I had infinite amounts of time, you know. So I think the return on investment's pretty quick. So I've just used a good portion of Fridays to end up improving the system, is really what I end up doing. This past weekend it bled into the weekend.
so, and what I think of just another point to add, it's not only the absolute time savings that you're getting, it's, this stuff, especially if you're in a more strategic role or you're an actual, you're an attorney doing legal work, is this like small admin stuff just gets you out of the flow, right? And it's not just the actual time, 20 minutes that you spend, it's 20, it's the 5 minutes that you're thinking about it. that is distracting you from work, right? And then it's
Yep.
another like it's just dragging along in your day because you have other stuff that you're doing, right? And it just like builds in your headspace, right? Once you get that
Yep.
out of the way, once you get it automated, you're like, okay, I don't have to think about it. I don't even have to think that of somebody else doing this because it's all automated. You just press the button, unless something happens, massive server failure worldwide,
Yep.
and it's like it will happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And some of the other solos that I've talked to about Lawmatics, some of their immediate concerns at times are, well, I make a living off of, some of them charge hourly, right? And they're like, I make a living off of hourly rates. Um, isn't this just going to cut down on that? Like the answer to that is like no, because all of the stuff so far that I've described, none of it. I mean, I can't bill for any of that, right?
Yeah, no,
It's
exactly.
all of that is just
Admin
time
stuff.
that is gone that cannot be billed for, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. No, love this, love this. Well, thank you so much for sharing the automation example, how your workflow looks like, and some tips for people starting out. I think it's extremely as well useful just to hear from other people in the space, right? Attorneys that are actually implementing this in the day to day. Just also to understand that you're not alone, right? As you said as well previously when we were chatting before the recording is, there are a lot of communities out there that you can join, right? And as well get inspiration from and also get support from. You're not alone in this. And so hearing stories like this is amazing. Thank you so much. Right.
Thank you, Martin. Thanks for all of your help.